Hi guys! Welcome to Design Fundamentals, a TOTS Plus premium course. I'm Sarah Khan, and today we're going to talk about usability and user interface design. So, in our last lesson, Design Fundamentals, Introduction to Interaction Design, we established why you want to make your websites usable. Odds are you're already sold on the idea or you wouldn't be listening today. But how to get started? Getting started with usability can be a bit like trying to start jumping rope when the rope is already swinging. We've all been there. So I'm going to give you some practical steps that you can start using immediately to make your websites and web applications more user-friendly. It's not magic, I promise, but it does take some good old-fashioned elbow grease. Here's what we're going to cover: metrics and current user research, planning content for usability, wireframes and micro-usability tests, and usability in production. First, you have to find out who your current users are. You can't design a good user experience if you don't know who your users are. Not only do you not know what they're expecting from your website, you don't know their technical or physical limitations, cultural biases, or even what sort of device they're viewing it on. I mean, Jack Black could be trying to use your website. You don't know. So how do we go about finding out this information? Metrics. Usability designers live and die for data. If you're starting a brand new project, plan for how you're going to install metrics reporting as soon as you get it up and running. If you're working on an existing project, get metrics stat. My favorite tools to use for ongoing metrics gathering are Google Analytics, Piwik, and Kissmetrics. Each metrics tool has its strengths and weaknesses. Google Analytics is great for overall trend data, but not as strong on gathering information on individual users such as click paths. Google Analytics and Piwik are both free to use. Kissmetrics provides a bit more eye candy but is hosted and not free. Visual click data is also a powerful tool to have in your toolbox. This is an example of a heat map, which is a glimpse of the inside of the AdZerk application. My favorite heat map generating tool is called Crazy Egg, and it's not free, but it's far cheaper than the competition and head and shoulders above in functionality. So basically, this just gives you a visual representation of where people have been clicking, which, yes, you can get that from server logs, but this is just much more compelling. What does all of this data do for you? Over time, you can get a picture of who your users are. What equipment are they using? How long do they take to navigate through the pages? What language do they speak? All of this information really adds up to something that is useful to you. If this is an option for you, take things a step further. Begin to create some user profiles based on your current customers. Ask them what they're using to access your site and where they are while they're doing it. I've conducted user surveys on a range of platforms, ranging from emailing a simple list of questions to posting a note on Facebook to compiling a multi-page survey in SurveyMonkey. The specific tool isn't important as long as it makes sense in your context. I used Facebook, for example, when I needed to discuss the language on a homework help page with middle schoolers. I used SurveyMonkey for a more formal survey of business stakeholders. Some more typical survey platforms include SurveyMonkey, SurveyGizmo, and Google Docs. But that said, use the tool that fits the situation. What matters is reaching your users wherever they may be found. Planning content for usability. So, you've been gathering all of this data and you're ready to start rolling out some new features, or you're planning a website redesign. How do you apply your findings? Step 1. Develop user personas. We'll pretend that this is a guy named Fred. All of that data gathering will help you come up with 3 or 4 typical hypothetical users. Give them names, ages, occupations. Come up with a brief story about their background and what they expect out of your website. Then post them on a wall in your office. This helps you to be always mindful of who you're doing this for. When proposing a color, layout, or feature, ask yourself, what would Fred think about this? For instance, you might be excited about implementing some fancy new JavaScript interaction or animation, but you happen to know that Fred has arthritis in his hand and he would have trouble negotiating that with a mouse. So that might make you think twice about implementing that. Fred can also be an excellent tiebreaker between disagreeing colleagues. Step 2, create a sitemap. It doesn't matter if it's high or low tech, but do create a list of all the pages or content sections that will appear in your website or application. This will help you not only think through each piece about whether it needs to be there, but also think it through in the context of your user. Is this really the content that your user came to the site to find? Does it make sense? Does it all work together? My favorite mapping tool is Gliffy.com. They offer a limited free edition, but do charge for more than 3 projects. Other tools commonly used for this are OmniGraffle and Microsoft Visio, neither one of which is free, but they're both very powerful. Step 3, create user flows. My personal favorite way to begin is to take a stack of index cards or sticky notes and write the name of each page on one each. That way you can lay them out on a conference table or on the floor and move them around easily. Figure out how you expect users to interact with the pages. Which will they see first? Which will they see second? Which will they see third? What happens if they make a mistake? What defines a successful visit to your website? Wireframes. Now that you've got your content and interactions pretty well nailed down, it's time to design. Always begin with wireframes. Wireframes allow you to figure out the best placement for your content without getting into the emotional quagmire that can be graphic design. Stakeholders are seldom emotional or opinionated about a pencil sketch. With wireframes, the more lo-fi the better to start with. Once you've committed something to pixels, you may find you're more reluctant to move things around. I always begin with pencil and paper. UI Stencils has a delightful stencil set with Browser Sketchpad that's great for getting ideas rolling. Sticky notes are also your friend. Putting content pieces on sticky notes and then moving them around the paper wireframe is a low commitment way of seeing how different pieces of content work. Some other good options are Balsamic and Mockingbird, which are similar to Gliffy but are designed specifically for doing wireframes, and they're both available online. And of course, there's your trusty Adobe Suite products, Photoshop, Fireworks, Illustrator, or InDesign even, if that's your cup of tea, whatever gets the job done for you. Bonus points if you're wearing your UX UI t-shirt while you're doing this. The wireframing stage is an excellent time to start getting user input. Remember, test early, test often. If you have users readily available, show them your paper wireframes. Give them a pencil and ask them to touch the pencil to the wireframe to indicate where they would click. You would be amazed at how many potential disasters can be averted by early wireframe testing. If you're more into digital wireframes, then there are several ways to solicit light, quick feedback. My go-to tool is usability.com. I often post a wireframe there and then distribute the link to my users via Twitter. The whole exercise takes all of an afternoon and provides valuable insights into my proposed design. TryMyUI and usertesting.com are two other good tools. The main difference between something like a TryMyUI and a Usability is that they provide the users for you. So if you don't have a existing user base or guinea pigs that you can go to, you can purchase bundles of users, which are just random strangers out on the internet, and you can send them to your test, and then they'll walk through and give you video feedback, survey data, and all kinds of other good stuff. Step 5, the visual design. Now, and only now, are you ready to begin the visual design of the site or feature. Having gathered feedback, decided on content and workflow, and talked with users about the structure and interaction, we may safely begin adding colors and graphics. You might find at this point that having done all of this preparatory work, the design process will go much smoother. But as always, you're going to still want to get feedback. So some good places to get feedback on a visual mockup include Forest and Concept Feedback. And this is an example of when I posted on Forest to get designer feedback on my new UI that I was working on. And I got a lot of good information from my fellow designers. So here's the big list. Again, Usability, Trauma UI, and user testing are all still relevant. You can post up a graphic mockup on any of those tools and get real user data on it. You could post wireframes there. You can also post your production site. So the point is to always be testing no matter what stage of the project you're at. Usability in production. Oh, a couple more points on the graphic stage. Colors and fonts are something that can have a huge impact on usability, so do be mindful of things like color blindness, dyslexia, and technical capabilities of user devices. It's always a good idea to test colors on a color blindness tool like vischeck.com, or keep in mind that folks with dyslexia rely on word shapes to decipher what they say, so all caps can be a bad idea. Alright, so going forward, you've got your project in production, you have a working beta, or it may actually be in production. Rinse and repeat. Your metrics will be ticking away on your new site if you've followed my advice, so continue to check in on them on a regular basis. Get in the habit of logging in once a week or once every other week to see how things are going and see if users are interacting with things in the way that you expected. Remember, users change over time, so it's important to always be testing. Also, ask your users what they think. People are always happy to give you their opinion, so the most important thing as a usability designer is to be quiet and listen to what they have to say. So, here's your assignment. Figure out what your metrics situation is. Do you have metrics running? If so, log in and have a look. If not, find out how you can get some installed. Try your hand at creating a simple user persona. It does not have to be an actual skeleton, but just do something light and quick just to start thinking about that. Try creating a simple sitemap with 3 user flows. The site doesn't have to be a real one, and it doesn't have to have more than 4 or 5 pages, but start thinking through the process. And finally, create a simple pencil and paper mockup of just 1 page on your hypothetical site that you've created the sitemap and user flows for. All of these processes will help you start thinking about ways that you can implement these tools in your regular workflow. So next time on Design Fundamentals, we're going to cover interaction design, goals, and feedback. This is Sarah Kahn, and from all of us here at Tuts Plus, thanks for listening.